This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream, the stream I do on Sundays, because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's a little overcast out where I'm at, but it'll hopefully get better over the course of the day. I hope so. I have some walking and grocery shopping to do later. But yes, I hope you're all doing well, especially our friends in the southern states where there's been storming going on of various types for days now. And I really hope everybody's safe and well there because, man, that's just crazy. So hope you're all doing well otherwise. But yes, we return today back to the classroom. It's been a while since I've looked at something specifically educationally based on the Sunday stream. At least I think so. I don't know. The time kind of, sort of gels together over the last couple of years. And I'll get more into why I picked the particular videos I picked out today. Because, yes, there are videos. There are three videos of gradually increasing runtime. Gradually increasing. Did I? Yeah, I'm just looking. Sorry. I got distracted by something. If you can believe it. By the way, who's joining me this morning on this beautiful Sunday morning? Before I lose my brain here, Noah Asensio, good morning. Mike Savage, good morning. Dr. Funkenstein's Ghost, good morning. Mike R., good morning. Derek LaRue, as always, thank you so much for your support and your generosity. I really, really do appreciate it. I hope I continue to earn such consideration from you. Thank you so much. Mr. Tickle Trunk, good morning. Mike R., if I didn't already say so, I did say so. Good morning. Shadow Claw, good morning. Miranda Stone, yes, Miranda Stone, everybody. Say thank you to Miranda Stone. She's provided for us the links at the top of the chat box to the fundraisers for our friends Moonshock and Angry Illinoisian. They and their families have experienced some medical hardships recently, and so if you have a couple of bucks to spare, you can throw their way. That would be appreciated. If you can't, no worries, but if you can share those links out on social media, that would as well be appreciated. Let's see, who else is here? Because chat keeps jumping around. Chat, what are you doing to me? A2P, thank you so much. Thank you, Scribe and Brittany, for the happy birthday song. You are welcome, A2P, a.k.a. Andrew. Yes, that was very nice of Brittany. And good morning as well to Brittany Holland, who I see there. Who else is here? Tithus. Good morning. Boy, oh boy, chat is just going crazy today. Keldrig, good morning. No Name, good morning. JMK, good morning. Funtime Bats, good morning. Tall Person, good morning. Who else is here? Buddy R, good morning. Seftus Wolf, good morning. And did I miss anybody? I bet I missed somebody. I missed somebody, didn't I? If I did, I apologize. It's just going crazy this morning. And Simon Willikins, good morning. Those Ain't Real Dude, good morning. Pissed Off Shih Tzu, good morning. And for anybody that I missed, anybody who's lurking or anybody in the future, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so what is on the docket for today? Well, like I said, 3 different videos of gradually increasing runtime. The first video is about 2 or 3 minutes long. The second video is just over 5 minutes long. And the third video is a little under 30 minutes long. Now, I'll be going for an hour and a half in real time at minimum and only go any further if there's some real need to. But out of the 3 videos, the first one comes from some particular educational institution. I forget. It's like some school district or some college or something. The second one is a PBS report. And the third one is kind of highlights from a teacher's conference about all of these things involving DEI in the classroom or equity in the classroom and so on. Now, of the 3, the one that I'm most directly interested in or most curious about is the PBS report. Because the PBS report, and just ahead of time, I haven't watched any of these, so I don't know what they're going to say, but the PBS report is about the difficulties and attempts, in trying to recruit male teachers of color into teaching positions. And this is significant to me because I did a stream, I think it was a Sunday stream, maybe a year or 2 ago now, I forget. But I was looking specifically at videos involving cultural competency. Let me get my CC words out because either critical consciousness or cultural competency. But yeah, cultural competency. And one of the videos I looked at was a PBS report back then. And in the course of this reporting on cultural competency in the classroom, they mentioned the fact that it was difficult, or they were having challenges recruiting male teachers of color into teaching positions. They never expanded on why. And it was only one part of a larger report. And I do recall I was very curious to know, well, they must know what difficulties they're encountering or what difficulties they're having reported to them, right? But they never expanded on that. And so now a report posted just a couple of days ago is apparently going to hone in on that specific topic. So of the three, that's the one that I'm most curious about at first blush. But all three of them, I'm sure, will be very enlightening. All three of them have been posted within the last week. So this is very new information, hot off the presses. What's going on regarding DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in various classrooms? So with all of that as preamble, and also good morning, Ostsand, good morning, Old Guy Gamer, Rick Ashbringer, Rotten Corpse, and I think that's everyone. With all that as preamble, I'll get right into it. So start off with a few seconds for a sound test. Now, just as a note, speaking of sound tests, I did cut out audio at the beginning and end of a couple of these because they start out with musical numbers, and I don't know if those are copyrighted. So the first few seconds will be silent on a couple of these videos, and then we'll get into the reporting, such as it is. So as soon as I hear sound, I will check with you to see if you hear sound. All right? Okay. And with that, let's proceed. Let's see. What is this? This is the Allegheny Intermediate Unit. Allegheny County, is that Pennsylvania? My geography's terrible on the East Coast. Okay, lots of people in a conference room. It's meant to be silent, guys, just so you know.
You're going to hear some things that are going to make you uncomfortable.
Oh boy, I love hearing things that make me uncomfortable. It's my favorite thing in the world. I am such a masochist. You guys hear that okay? Let me know in the chat. Vanilla Bear, hello Vanilla Bear. Hope you're doing well. Hope you and the kiddos are doing well. Sounds good, says Mike R. And Derek LaRussa's sound is good. Yes, everybody say hi to Vanilla Bear, friend from across the pond, as it were. All right, so hearing things that are uncomfortable, lay it on me.
They're going to make you think, and that's okay.
Oh, it's okay to be uncomfortable? Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that it's okay to be uncomfortable. I'm going to, again, we're in a musical number here, so I'm going to keep it silent for a second until I can tell that there's something being said. No? Okay, here we go.
We're going to have a diversity and equity inclusion conference because all those things matter.
All those things matter. Why?
And by having a conference, everyone can come together, discuss the wins of the past year, and also talk about what they want the future to look like.
Oh, okay. Ooh, okay. What they want the future to look like. And on the screen, for those of you listening at home, there's footage of I think it's our speaker, in front of a screen with a list. What is culture? Okay. What is culture? Traditions. When the conference would start and end each day. What? Where the conference would take place. Oh, is this the conference's culture? Norms. How each session would begin. Which languages would you speak and hear? Food. What type of refreshments would be offered? What type of utensils would be available to eat your food, if any? And attire. What type of clothing would be appropriate and professional? Which hairstyles would be appropriate and professional? Well, I'd be more curious to know what hairstyles are not appropriate and professional, first and foremost. Who would you police at the door for an inappropriate hairstyle? If somebody walked in with an SLC punk giant blue spiked mohawk, would you deny them entry? I mean, I might. But if it was Matthew Lillard, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't.
I think it's important for our region to understand that diversity is within all of us.
Okay. What does that mean? Diversity is within all of us. Yes, we are all different people. And if you're talking sort of on a personality, lifestyle, interests, yes, we're all unique individuals. We're all unique snowflakes. Yes.
and that we have to look at how we can use those lived experiences
Wait a sec. What was that? Did you guys see that? There's like a flash of a frame for a second there. Was that?
for our region to understand that diversity is within all of us, and that we
Yeah.
have to look at how we can use those
No.
lived experiences
Okay,
to
never mind.
cultivate an environment where all students feel seen and that all students feel understood.
I tell you what, when I was in school, the last thing I wanted to do was feel seen. I was so I lacked so much self-confidence, and I was so over sensitive to I had acne and just my glasses and not being exactly some kind of tall linebacker type. Being seen was probably the last. I always sat way in the back at assemblies. I don't know about you, but maybe that's just me.
And that their families can see somebody who is like them within our schools.
Oh, see someone who is like them. See someone who is like them. Diversity is within all of us, but the important thing is what you see. Uh-huh. Oh, man.
The
Too much music.
facilitators that I bring to this conference, I pick out like one by one, and I always make sure that the 3 areas of diversity, which is race and ethnicity, LGBTQ and gender identity, and disabilities, is always represented.
Okay, so when you're picking out speakers, you filter them on the basis of things that are not determinative of merit or ability. You are discriminating who gets to speak on the basis of their skin color, their ethnicity, their orientation, and or their disability. Okay, okay.
In the conference, being with the facilitators that are experts in these fields.
Experts in these fields. Experts in the field of ethnicity, the field of race, the field of disability, the field of orientation. Is that how you determine expertise? Okay, I guess then I'm an expert at being a man. I'm an expert at being heterosexual. I mean, I guess. I don't know that I could speak academically on these things necessarily, but I could tell you some stories. They probably wouldn't be appropriate in some instances for the classroom setting, but okay.
We then actually gain the skills and knowledge that we can take back to the classroom.
What skills and knowledge are you going to take back to the classroom on orientation? What, like what? I guess I need an active example. Like what are you going to take away from someone who just happens to have a disability or who happens to be of a particular ethnicity or race or orientation, who you've handpicked on the basis of those factors? What do you think you're going to take with you back to the classroom on those subjects?
To make sure that students feel seen and they feel heard, and they're actually able to work with one another.
What? Okay. And I know in a 2-minute some odd video, I'm not going to get answers, but I'd love to have, again, an active example of what he's talking about. Stories Like Me. I'm looking at all the books they've got listed up. The Bright Side. Milo Imagines the World. Unstoppable something. Okay.
So at the AIU,
What is this? 50 LGBTQ plus people who made history. Okay. African icons, 10 people who shaped history. All right.
we are an educational community that advocates and advances equitable opportunities for every learner. So as soon as we start to talk about equity, DEI is so much a part of that.
Well, no, as soon as you start talking about DEI, equity is so much a part of that because equity is the E in DEI, but okay. Equity means, in this context, in the modern sociological context, equality of outcome. How do you achieve equality of outcome amongst a diverse student body?
And so when we're able to offer these types of conferences, it really sets the stage for that work to come to life in what we do each and every day.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's it? Okay, that was a lot shorter than I thought it would be. Okay, that's it. That's the video, guys. All right, so the Allegheny Something unit. There you go. The most poignant part of that was the hand-picking speakers on what they looked like and or who they slept with and or having a disability. Not hand-picking people on the basis of their expertise, their education, their experiences, their tenure. No, surface level things first and foremost. And somehow that makes them experts on those subjects because one person's feelings and beliefs on their orientation makes them an expert on that orientation. I guess one person's possessed disability makes them an expert on that disability. Because as you know, there are no rifts in the, let's say, blind community on the nature of being blind and what to do about it. Everybody's in agreement because obviously all blind people are the same. And I only bring up blind people because I've had multiple conversations and done a couple of TEDx's in the past with Blind Press, a fellow YouTuber. And it's not true. Not true. Okay, anyway, that was episode number 1. Not a whole lot there, but the next one's going to be hopefully more interesting. This is a PBS report specifically talking about trying to recruit male, I believe it is male teachers of color. So this is the one I'm most interested in after my previous foray into cultural competency.
This past week, employees from Los Angeles schools went on strike, demanding, among other things, staffing increases.
Staffing increases, okay. Is that because there's more kids than there are teachers, I'm assuming? I wonder if they'll bring up the pandemic.
But teacher shortages are an issue beyond LA. More than half of public schools report being understaffed. And bringing diversity into the classroom is a big part of that.
Okay, so again, we don't have enough teachers. All right. What makes up a teacher? Well, someone who has been educated on becoming a teacher. All right, well, we need to find people who know how to be teachers. Well, first, we really need to put them through a filter of aesthetics. Then we can think about hiring them. Anybody see an issue with this?
In the 2020-2021 school year, fewer than 2% of teachers were black men, while 61% were white women.
Okay. And how do you intend to solve for this problem?
Earlier, I spoke with Mark Joseph of Call Me Mister, a program that aims to recruit and retain diverse students pursuing careers in education.
Call Me Mister. Retain diverse students. Okay.
I asked him why there are so few black male teachers today.
Yes. Okay. Well, whatever the case, this is the question I had in that stream so long ago. I honestly want to know the answer, or at least the theory from our speaker.
I think part of it is there's a huge disconnect with many African-American male students in terms of their fit in today's classrooms. Many of them are in those spaces day in and day out. They don't feel seen. They don't feel connected. They just don't understand their role and their place, or really how school plays a significant impact in their lives moving forward.
Okay, well then that just comes back to another question of why. Why not? What is happening specifically for black male students that is not happening for Asian male students or white girls?
And so that's why what we have been able to do as a program is to take those same experiences that they've had during that K-12 journey and address those things in a kind of way to where we can emphasize leadership, we can emphasize relationships, and we can emphasize development in terms of being able to go back to serve in those spaces that you didn't see yourself leading at one point in time.
Okay, so you're going to take kids who, because they don't see themselves in leadership in those spaces, i.e. schools, you're going to take them out of those spaces into your space, and you're going to convince them that the spaces that aesthetically don't seem to have anything to do with them will now have something to do with them? Or see, I'm always hung up on the if you can't see it, you can't be it philosophy, which is one of the most self-defeating things I think I've ever heard, and is not demonstrated in reality. So here's my question, and the question that I have every time it comes down to students not succeeding in school and everything else, regardless of what they look like, where are the parents? What role do the parents have in this process? And I mean, I went through school and I didn't feel like I wanted to become a teacher, right? I mean, I might have had a passing thought of it at some point, but it didn't interest me. So why do white women love being teachers? What's the disconnect? Is it just because they see female teachers? Is that it? That's the only thing that drives them?
How much of this is a vicious cycle? You talk about young Black students not feeling seen, not feeling involved. How much would it help to have teachers who look like them at the head of the classroom?
And how would you achieve that in the first place? Pardon me a second, I have to cough. I'm drinking water this morning, and it went down the wrong proverbial pipe. Yes, how would you solve for this problem?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. And we all know and understand there's no magic potion that we could take, and there's no magic pill. The reality is that those same African-American males that everyone says they're looking for, we know and understand that they sit in our classrooms day in and day out.
African-American males they're looking for. Okay, it just sounds to me like active tokenism, doesn't it? It's like, oh, we just need to fill this demographic. You talk about a vicious cycle. Well, if you start off the entire premise with, we need more people that look this way, first and foremost, is that really a healthy way of going about this? I mean, and why specifically Black male students? There were a lot of low statistics on that chart you showed us. What about finding ways to encourage all students to consider a career in education? Why be so specific in both race and gender? Why is that specific set of demographics so important? Is it the visibility theory? If you don't see it, you can't be it?
However, the reality is, how do we tap into their potential so that these same individuals can then return into those classroom spaces, leading those classrooms, instructing those classrooms, really connecting to students in a way that only they could do it?
I don't know. Tell me. You're the one running this program. What is your theory? What is your process? How do you do that? I mean, purportedly, you're taking up the slack for what the schools are not doing in encouraging these students to pursue careers in education, correct? I mean, that sounds like what it's supposed to do. So what do you do? What is your process? Give me a hypothetical student and what you would do to help them want to become a teacher.
You know, lately we've been seeing the public schools become sort of the battleground for the culture wars. Do you think that might lead or discourage some Black men from going back as teachers?
What? Wait. First off, why aren't you following up with asking him to describe their process? But okay, maybe you'll get to that later. The public schools are the ground of the culture war. You don't say. Really? Conditioning the next generation for what happens next? Especially in today's academia? Yeah, okay. Would that discourage them? Why would it discourage them?
I believe so. Education as we now know it and understand has really taken a significant hit in the public's eye.
Yeah, I wonder why that might be. Is it because the public education system over the last 10 years in particular has been pumping very goofy ideas into children's heads about race and gender and pushing them to start accepting things about themselves that may or may not be true, but that some adult activist that's not really a teacher anymore is pushing into them, where teachers are being set up more as gurus than they are educators, where the distance between a parental role and a teacher role is becoming very, very hazy. I don't know. It's possible. Yeah, that would drive me away from wanting to get involved in the educational system. I'll grant you that.
And so the natural understanding is, why would I want to go into that space?
Yes.
If all I'm hearing about education and being a teacher is so negative, why would I find myself in that particular position?
Yes, that is and that is a legitimate problem, right? Because there are people out there that maybe do have a natural inclination to teach, to educate, to mentor people. And then they look at all the nonsense, the politics, the ideologies, the activism taking place in public schools and being allowed to take place in public schools might not be for someone with a relatively level head on their shoulders. So just in general, that's a problem. It doesn't have anything to do specifically with what your race or gender is, just your mentality. So what would you do to convince somebody to put themselves into that very volatile space?
One of the things that we try to do and live by, how do we change the narrative of what it means to be an educator in this day and age?
Okay. What do you do? What is your theory? What is your philosophy?
Because truthfully, we realize the challenges. We realize the hardships that may encounter being an educator.
Such as, I can imagine some, but I've never been an educator. What do you do?
But the truth of the matter is, what generation didn't encounter some level of challenge?
No generation has not encountered some level of Okay. I feel like this is going to be broken record territory. Will our speaker describe for us the process that he puts his, we'll just say students through to try to encourage them towards going back to the classroom and wanting to become an educator? Like, what do you do? What are the current day challenges that you see as needing to be overcome? And what is your process and or theory on how to try to overcome them? Describe your process. Give me an example. Tell me a success story. Tell me a failure that you learned from, something.
And because of the commitment of the previous generation, it has given us an opportunity to do what we're passionate about today.
What?
It has given us an opportunity to serve our communities, our schools, and most importantly, our young people in a way that it will benefit them to be able to move forward in our society.
Okay, that doesn't tell us anything. How do you encourage students? I don't care their race or their gender, just students in general, because the future teachers are going to come from the student bodies of our schools across the country. Okay, how do you encourage students to consider careers in education? Okay, whether they see themselves in their teachers or not, you have to give them some kind of incentive, have to stir up in them some kind of passion or interest in becoming an educator. Regardless of what the student looks like, how would you do that for a person? Just someone, just a student, with no guarantee that they're eventually going to want to become an educator. Maybe they'll want to be an artist. Maybe they'll want to be a computer programmer. Maybe they'll want to be a fireman, whatever. But or alternately, what would our speakers suggest be done insofar as changes to the current infrastructure or the current practices of state schools, public schools, to better incentivize and better encourage students to want to pursue careers in education? Like what has our speaker learned that he thinks should be applied globally, let's say?
tell me specifically, what is
Yes.
Call Me Mister doing to try to achieve all these goals?
Yes. Thank you, PBS man. Thank you.
Our program is designed to address retention, recruitment, and development.
Retention, recruitment, and development. What age of students are you working with? Or is, I mean, I guess I need to know, what does this organization do? Is it taking existing students in like junior high and high school and giving them some kind of like training? Or are you trying to recruit just, college graduates or something and then convince them to become teachers?
And so when we look at it on the recruitments end,
Yeah.
we know that we can't just recruit individuals into the profession the same old way that we've done many years before.
Well, I'm assuming you recruit them first and foremost on what they look like, since that's the thrust of this entire endeavor, right?
We've learned how to leverage and use our stories and the stories of many of the educators that have gone through this program to really connect to the students that we try to recruit.
Could you tell us one of these stories?
The retention piece is so critical as well.
No. Okay, I hope our interviewer asks for more details. Recruitment. Oh, we tell stories of people who've gone through this. Like what? Now we're into retention. Okay.
Because it makes no sense to bring individuals into the program and you can't retain them.
So how do you retain them?
It's an opportunity and an experience where young African-American males get an opportunity to work together. They get to go to classes together. They get to study together.
Okay. So you're practicing a kind of educational segregation. Okay.
You get to do it with a cohort of individuals with that same fire, with that same passion, and with that same love of being an educator and serving our young people.
How? No, wait. I thought that they didn't. I thought that they didn't have that interest because they didn't see people who looked like them in the classrooms from which you are gathering these students. How do they have fire, passion, etc. towards being an educator? If they already had that, then what is the purpose of your program? What does your organization do?
And then the last component, the developmental stages. We do know and understand that in order to become that effective teacher, we have to put our individuals through a developmental process.
Well, yes. I mean, you guys aren't a school in and of yourselves, are you? I mean, ultimately, someone's going to have to go to college and take a course or major in education in some way, shape, or form and get certified. So is this a college preparatory or preparatory, depending on how you want to say it, program? I'll look this stuff up later, but I'm always more interested to hear from someone who is either an expert or a representative of these ideas or these organizations on what their sales pitch is when given a platform to describe themselves and explain what they do. And so far, I am just confuzzled.
And all students deserve an effective educator. And
all students deserve an effective educator, but we're going to segregate specifically on the basis of race and gender who we're trying to encourage to take on the role of an educator. When our biggest concern is if you can't see it, you can't be it. So why aren't you just okay? An
educator that's willing to see them, and an educator that's willing to move them forward. And
wait. Sorry, I don't mean to be pausing this much. So an educator who does not look like the types of people you work with will not see any students that they don't look like. So all the white female teachers can't see, quote unquote, any non-white, non-female students. What? Oh my gosh. Okay.
An educator that's willing to create new experiences and opportunities, not just for one type of students, but all students in that classroom environment.
Right. So all teachers are inherently racist and or sexist because they are. And I know this to be true because I say so. The majority of teachers in this country cannot see the value of, do not wish to provide experiences for any students that they themselves do not resemble. Okay.
That's the mission of our program, to recruit, to retain, and to develop, and to place these individuals into our classrooms today.
With that philosophy, right? Or I should say, with the belief that that philosophy inherently exists within any teacher who does not look like them, right? Your teachers will think better, but obviously all the other teachers think this other way. How do you know that? Why would you put such a vile assumption onto people who don't look like you look? Is that really a productive way to go into a school environment? If I'm a teacher who's been raised towards this goal into believing that any teacher who does not look like me and has not gone through this particular training is inherently a racist and or sexist, is that going to be a productive working relationship in a school, you think, with a diverse staff?
Mark Joseph of Call Me Mister. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to look this up after the fact and find out exactly how this works. I still don't understand what the process is, what exactly is served by this. Okay, now we have some. That was the end of the interview in the video, I guess. But now we have some statistics. Over 3/4 of public K through 12 school teachers identified as female during the 2020 to 2021 school year. And so what? Are we putting a value of quality on gender now? Sounds like it, doesn't it? And again, this is silent because I took out the musical cues or whatever. Okay, so that's the end of video number 2. I might have to do a supplementary thing on Call Me Mister, because now I'm very curious to know, at least publicly or otherwise, what it is that they do or how they operate, because that conjured in me far more questions than it did answers. Back over to the chat real quick. Sorry, guys, I'm so intently focused on this. Super Koopa TV, good morning. Sir Adamantine and his Celestial House of Sins, good morning. Brett Ide, if I didn't already say hello, good morning. Mike Savage, Blarg. Anybody else I missed? TC, did I already say TC? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. And yeah, so good morning to you all. Who was that? Who did I miss? Did I miss somebody? I might have missed somebody. John Gamesman. And No Name, good morning, good morning. Okay, so those are the first 2 videos. A very brief little piece where the speakers at the conference were chosen on their aesthetic. Slightly longer piece from PBS where we're intimately focused on choosing and recruiting and encouraging people into education on the basis of their aesthetic. All right, so this third video is the longest of the 3, bigger, longer, and uncut. It is a conference, or a highlights reel of a conference with teachers and educators. I think it's the, they'll explain when we get to it. It's something like the Science Teachers Association or something. We'll get to it. But first, thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. Woman is gender, female is biology. That's a huge tell from an education institution is conflating gender and sex on purpose. Well, I mean, that's what they put on the screen. Identify as female. Identify as female. So what does that have to do with anything? See, this is the one part that the piece did not do anything to explain. Why is that a bad thing? The only hint is the same deal we've been told over and over again. If you can't see it, you can't see yourself doing it, right? If you do not see someone who looks like you doing a thing, then you have a deficit of belief in yourself that you could also do that thing. So if that's the theory, well, then if you look at that initial chart, let me go back real quick. What am I at? 7 minutes, 43 seconds. Let's go back to that initial chart that our presenter put up here. Okay, so here's the graph. For those of you listening at home, I'm going to read off across the board. Okay, so here are the percentages of American teacher demographics. Black men, 1.3%. Black women, 4.5%. Asian men, 0.5%. Asian women, 1.8%. Hispanic men, 2.3%. Hispanic women, 7%. White men, 18.7%. And white women, 61.6%. Now, out of that chart, you would think that if there is a demographic that needs a major uplift in becoming teachers, you'd think it'd be Asian men. They are 3 times effectively less likely than black men to become teachers. So why not focus on Asian men? Why does one demographic take precedence over any other when there are several demographics that are within the margin of statistical error of being effectively equal? You know, Asian women and black men, you know, plus or minus 3%, they're basically on the same footing. Hispanic men are less than black women. Well, why? Why not focus on people in general? Why not raise up all people? Why focus on one demographic, and especially one demographic that isn't in the worst shape? As though any of these demographics say anything about someone's potential to become a good teacher in the first place. Anyway, okay, let's move on. We were at 7:53, I think it was. Let me jump ahead here. I can't really. 7. Sorry, guys. It's oh, there we go. 7:43 or something. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, there you go. That's episode 1 and episode 2 of this triple feature. Now we're into episode 3. Let's go forward. And again, silence with...
Created by educators and for educators, this is NSTA Atlanta 23.
Oh boy, NSTA Atlanta 23. Oh boy. I think it's the National Science Teachers Association, something like that.
The annual conference and expo in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
It's an unparalleled professional learning experience for all, and only NSTA TV is bringing you all the scientific fun and features.
Oh boy, scientific fun and features. I love science. I've never heard of you before today, but yeah, science.
Welcome back to this thrilling third day of NSTA Atlanta 23.
Wow, this is so professional. I love it.
I'm Matria Godfrey. This is NSTA TV, where we bring you specially curated content from the largest gathering of professional science teachers in the country.
Oh boy, I love science. I love teachers. Can we get to something? I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, because I think this is all introductory stuff. Okay, episode 3. This was from March 25th, so just a few days ago. Okay. Do we have interviews and things? We do have interviews. Okay.
We start the conversation with NSTA's Multicultural and Equity Division Director.
Multicultural and Equity Division Director. Wow. Okay.
Plus, we learn how to build inclusive communities within the classrooms from author and featured speaker Marisol Raruca.
I've never heard of any of these authors before. Okay, let's get to the actual interviews. I'm going to jump ahead because this all seems to be very promotional stuff. Okay, this looks like the actual beginning of an interview, so let me... Okay.
As a member of NSTA's board of directors and the Multicultural and Equity Division Director, Alicia Connerly is the perfect person to continue our conversation about ongoing diversity efforts, and she's here in studio with us this morning.
Oh, that's great. And again, because of, all those other considerations, I will be pausing relatively frequently to make sure everything's squared away. Oh my gosh. First off, I left up Mr. Tickle Trunks thing. My mistake, but hey, worse things could happen. But Brett Ide, thank you so much. Can I get a oh yeah? Is that what that is? Is that some Southern thing that I'm not aware of? Did I screw that up? I screwed that up, didn't I? Because I'm a damn Yankee. It's probably my problem, right? Mr. Tickletrunk, I got my $5. Yeah, well, hey, for self-aggrandization and advertisement, I'm here for you. But Brett Ide, thank you so much. That's very generous of you. Did I do that correctly? Does it have to be more like Rebel Yell or something? I don't know. I don't know these things. I'm a silly northerner. I don't know nothing. So thank you, Brett, so much for your generosity as always. All right. So anyway, our diversity director equity thing.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, let's talk about what your top priorities are in this role.
Mm-hmm.
My top priorities in this role are ensuring that resources, strategies, and just the workforce is becoming more diverse.
Oh, okay. She had me at workforce. Okay. How do you make sure the workforce becomes more diverse?
And inclusive of our NSTA membership and population. And we understand that diversity is not just in Black and white, it is in all facets. So we're excited about the things that we have done with that. And
it's not just black and white, it's in all facets. Okay. Then it shouldn't include black and white. I always feel like I'm losing my brain whenever I hear it's like if that is not we have laws in place. There was a whole movement that took place in the 60s. There were Supreme Court rulings and so on and so forth that was meant to take the color out of education. Why bring it up at all? It's not just black and white. No. It's not about black and white. But you do include black and white in your considerations. Why?
And I'm excited about the incoming Multicultural and Equity Division Director who is going to be continuing those efforts.
So you're leaving?
I was going to ask you, how much progress do you feel has been made, and where are there still some areas where we can make improvements?
Well, we enjoyed the progress that was actually made during the pandemic. It was amazing coming on during the pandemic. So we're like, we can't go anywhere. We can't have any in-person conferences. So everyone had pivoted to online. And so one of the things we did along with the Association of Multicultural Science Education, which is known as AMSI, with Dr. Sharon Delsbor, we worked together along with a former staff member, Dolores Howard, and we had virtual mini-series.
Okay, so maybe I've got this wrong. This is just talking about the conference. This is just talking about the association that they were still able to operate during the pandemic. Okay, so you had web conferences like everybody else. Okay.
We had D.E.I. mini-series, and we also had social justice in the science classroom mini-series.
Social justice in the science classroom. Ay, caramba.
We had an overwhelmingly great response. At one point, we had to cut off registration, actually won the social justice one twice.
Wow.
So it was over a course of several months, and we were able to reach a wider and cast a wider net with individuals understanding what the Multicultural Equity Division is about. And
you had to cut off registration for the social justice in science classrooms deal twice. That might be a more worrying piece of information than anything else. It's like, yeah, we really want to get into that social justice in science stuff.
Where we're trying to go and grow, and the feedback that we got from it, we're actually now working to have more mini-series, even though we're back with in-person conferences. So that the pandemic actually helped us.
Okay, so the entire point of that segment was we know how to use Zoom calls to have meetings. And some meetings of some very questionable subject matter were very popular. Okay.
Incredible. You're one of the few agencies that the pandemic helped.
Yeah, one of the few agencies. Well, I guess agencies, sure, but there are lots of entities out there that were majorly helped by the pandemic. I don't know, Amazon, DoorDash, the pharmaceutical industry. But you're one of the few. Yeah, it really helped us to be able to Zoom call. When to have meetings. Okay.
You talk about these meetings and these little mini sessions.
Yes.
What was some of the feedback that you were hearing from educators? What are some of the
Sure.
challenges that they still face?
Well,
Yes.
the feedback that we were receiving was that they were excited, one, about the mini series, excited about understanding what the Multicultural and Equity Division actually does and the committee actually does.
I would love to know exactly what the Multicultural Division actually does. I'd love to hear that described.
And where we're trying to go. But some of the struggles we still have is expanding that diverse workforce. And
expanding the diverse workforce. Okay. Well, comes back to basics. How would you solve for that problem?
that's one thing that we're really focusing on.
Interesting. You know,
Okay. They have edited this interview. You can see these jumps in between facial expressions and positioning from one thing to the next. So I always feel like something valuable is being lost every time I see something edited like this. And I just wish that I had an uncut interview.
you certainly know a thing or two about breaking barriers.
Yes.
You were the first African-American administrator of Monticello Elementary School. For somebody who might be watching your career and wants to emulate it, wants to follow in your footsteps, what would your advice be?
Well, first off, you have to look like me. I mean, that would be what I derived from the previous speaker in the second video. But okay, what would you say?
Breathe.
Take a minute.
Take a minute and breathe. Barriers are in place to see how far you can be stretched. As a people, we do not like change.
Barriers are in place to see how far you can be stretched. So someone is actively punishing you. Is that it? Or what barriers? I guess I'd need to know. What barriers did you encounter?
Once we become comfortable in what we have, what we're doing, I'm quite all right with that. I'm content. But no, seeds do not grow unless there is something going on under the soil.
Seeds do not grow unless there's something going on under the soil. Okay.
You have to take roots. And then
Yeah.
people don't understand when you're taking roots, you're breaking out of the shell. You're planting yourself, and then everyone else sees what comes above ground. But when you look beneath that surface, you see how you've had to go left, you've had to go right, you've had to go straight down.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, okay. It's the same thing as trying to judge someone's judge your beginning by somebody else's middle, right? Like if you come in, let's say, as a brand new YouTuber and you're looking at someone like PewDiePie, right? And you're like, oh, I can't do that, or it's so simple, or whatever else. No, there's a whole extra set of stories going on there, a whole extra lot of effort and everything. Or trying to evaluate yourself on the basis of someone who's very practiced at it. You don't know the whole story, and so on. Yes, that's true for everyone. That's true for everyone. So
You've had to branch out.
yes,
And that hurts. My mentor, she always tell me that greatness cannot be contained in a box.
Greatness cannot be contained in a box. May I introduce you to Hellraiser?
He says, so you have to understand that you are great. And you have to understand that you're not to be in a box.
No, you have to understand that you're going to make mistakes, that you're going to learn, that you're going to know nothing when you start out, and you'll get better over time. You're not instantly great. There's a difference between encouraging someone towards greatness and instilling someone with a sense of entitlement. But that's just my reflexive response.
And that the sky is not the limit. There are no limits, especially with scientists. There's dark matter and space out there. So we go past the limit.
There are plenty of limits. There are plenty of limits. No matter what I did in life, I would not have become an NBA basketball star. It's just not something that would have happened for me. No matter how much I might have practiced or otherwise, I would not have become an NBA basketball star. Okay. My personal drive, my athletic ability, and so on. Right? It's just not going to happen. There are limits. The trick is learning how to work within your limits to the greatest degree of accomplishment possible. Right? It's not about there are no limits. You have to understand the limits and going as far to the edge as you're able and still make it worthwhile. That's the challenge. That's the challenge you have to give to yourself. The world has placed these things upon you. You can either let these challenges define you, or you can define yourself within the boundaries of those challenges. And there's Scribelight's personal development tip for the day.
So there are no limits.
That is great advice. Hopefully somebody listening will take what you said to heart. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning.
That's it? That's it? You're not going to have her describe how they're trying to work towards a more diverse workforce? Or what the multicultural division does? That's it? Okay, I'm going to jump to our next interview. Oh, this is with the author? I don't really care about the author, honestly. I'm sorry. I'm looking for educators. I'm looking for the people in charge of stuff. Author and keynote speaker, not really. Unless this is the entire video. Is this the entire video? Okay. Deep ocean. Okay, now we're actually talking about what the science classes are doing. Okay, let's. All right, let's back up. Sorry, guys. I'm just. I'm wary about time for the stream, and B, I'm also wary about letting things go on too long because they're talking about nothing that's relevant to what I'm curious about. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Equity talk has destroyed focus on why, i.e. black males don't stay in school. Instead, they talk about racial hiring percentages. DEI is destroying black men. Well, okay, I don't know whether that's true or not, but as far as the process of actually improving education, if your first consideration is the aesthetic of the person coming into the room, these organizations are no better than segregated drinking fountains, you know, or who gets to sit at what seat in the bus. If you have a racial test for who you're going to give encouragement or activity or opportunity to, you're a racist organization. There's no way around that. There really is no way around that. And especially if they're going to show those statistics of percentages of teachers based on gender and race, and then give preference to not the lowest percentage, if that's your real concern about quote unquote diversity, that says even more. It just, but yeah, no, the whole DEI process is destroying quality over aesthetic, right? We don't care as much about education, experience, skill, passion, etc., unless they first pass this aesthetic visual test. That's the important thing, which is stands in complete contravention of where we were supposed to be at by now after the civil rights movement of the 1960s, right? Now, don't get me wrong, the civil rights movement in the 1960s was not a light switch. It wasn't something like, okay, this law is passed, now everything's better. No, it is a process. It is a cultural evolution that's supposed to take place with the laws meant to guide us towards a better future. And yet look at where we're at. Racial affinity groups, aesthetics over talent, raising up certain demographics over others just because, seemingly. It blows my mind every time I stop for a second and think too hard about it. And yet this is now the standard. This is now acceptable. Each one of these videos I'm looking at so far represents a different segment of the educational landscape, different organizations, different schools, all pushing the same ideas that are just backwards, 100% backwards. You don't value people on what they look like unless you are a racist or a sexist or an ethnocentrist or whatever else. I really want to know, what are their plans or philosophies for improving the workforce diversity? It's always my question. Like, how do you intend to do that? If that is your main and primary concern, by what method do you propose to improve those numbers? What's next?
The deep ocean is a source of endless fascination for young students all around the world. And there is a huge amount of information for educators to inspire and engage students with. Groups like NOAA, the Ocean Exploration Trust, and the Schmidt Ocean Institute have come together to inspire the next generation of oceanographers.
And are they focusing on the student's appearance by any chance?
I love deep ocean science because it exists at the intersections of STEM.
The intersections of STEM. Okay.
The deep ocean has lessons about physics, lessons about biology, ecology.
Yes.
It makes things real for students.
The Deep Ocean Education Project was created through a partnership between NOAA, Ocean Exploration Trust, and the Schmidt Ocean Institute.
Okay, I don't know that I actually care so much about this. I wanted... Okay, she's another interview. Okay, let's get to another interview. I think that was just an advertisement.
Leaders. That's why Shell USA has partnered with NSTA to create partnerships and programs that highlight teachers who go above and beyond. Dr. Fraser Wilson, Vice President of Shell USA Company Foundation, is in the studio with us this morning to talk a little bit more about these programs. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, let's get started with the Lab Regional Challenge. Why was this created and what is it?
Okay. The Shell Lab Regional Challenge is an opportunity to provide school districts with resources, those who had limited resources to perform science labs in the classroom. This is a way to help them better provide instructions for the kids so they can have some hands-on opportunities to do science experiments.
Sounds
so you're
good.
Looking for those educators who can really take a budget and stretch it.
Yeah, definitely. We find that teachers are always working with limited resources. So it limits what they can do with their students to expose them to real world applications.
This all sounds perfectly fine. Great. Okay. And I'm you know, I don't necessarily have something snarky to say about every subject or anything. Some things are just like, that sounds fine. Okay. But the whole thing was titled as this is supposed to be the equity in the classroom segment. So I'm waiting for anything about that.
If you can't actually put your hands on it and apply it, it's sort of difficult to understand the concepts.
True.
So with the lab challenge, we're putting the equipment in the teachers' hands so they can improve their instructional methods and the students get better outcomes as a result of that.
Is this like Shell Oil? So we're training the next generation of engineers to drill into the ocean and potentially blow stuff up. Yeah, I always think back to the Deepwater Horizon deal. I actually traveled to Louisiana while that was going on. Not because it was going on. I was visiting friends, but it had just started after I'd gotten there. And so at the time, at least, when we went to restaurants in New Orleans and everything, the shellfish we were having at the time was probably some of the last shellfish not to be at risk of being contaminated with oil and stuff on the shores there. At least that was the word at the time. So I felt sort of morbidly thankful. It was a bizarre experience.
Some of the teachers that have applied for this in the past, can you describe?
And I know that Deepwater Horizon wasn't Shell. I'm just thinking about like oil companies in general and things like that. That's just what came to mind. I don't know why that is. Stream of consciousness.
Any of the ways that they've been able to stretch that budget? Anything in particular stick out to you?
So the teachers are amazing what they've been able to do with limited resources. What we've found a lot of times, teachers have only been demonstrating the labs because they don't have enough equipment for all the kids to participate, or they have inadequate equipment in the classroom, and it's really not safe to have those interactions. So what we've been able to find when the teachers get these resources, they get more creative in what they're able to do. So with the resources, the school is able to improve their science scores.
Like, I'd be curious to know what equipment is being provided. Is there any kind of training or anything? Like, just like with everything else, I would love an active example just for my education.
Improve the hands-on activities, improve the students' interest.
They're truly incredible. Now, in your role, you oversee Shell's corporate contributions. Why did you feel having NSTA as a recipient of some of those contributions was important?
Well, since it's a science teachers association and we are pushing science, I mean, some things kind of just explain themselves to me, but what do I know?
We've been a partner with NSTA for over 30 years.
Wait, so this association that you've had a relationship with for 3 decades, I'm going to ask you, why did you do this? Like, well, I know. It's just for educational purposes and promotional purposes. It's just like, I don't know.
We understand the importance that teachers have in a child's life, and the success of a community. The quality of life is really dependent on the quality of the education system. And teachers are key to making that happen. So
Yes.
from Shell, we understand teachers are critical to our success and our employee success in the local communities.
Yes, you're educating the next generation of employees effectively, or at least attempting to. Yes, which is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
So NSTA has been a great partner in helping us achieve our company goals.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Have you received a lot of feedback from the educators that you have helped? I'm sure that the gratitude is just overwhelming.
Yeah. The teachers have been amazing with what they've shared with us, how this has impacted them.
Like, again, just like with every other subject I look at, give me something to work with. Like, what did you do? Like, give me a classroom, give me a success story. Come on, this is the opportunity. You get feedback from a teacher. So teacher says, thank you so much for.
One teacher in particular, Alicia Conley. She came through the program. She went through an Urban Educators program. She participated in the Shell Lab Challenge, applied for the Teacher of the Year award.
Yes.
And now she's the president-elect for NSTA's organization. She's the youngest president-elect of the organization. So we're proud to know that she's gone through the programs that we've supported to help teachers over the years.
That's great, but what did you do? Like, what resources did you provide? What equipment? Was there a particular study or project or? Okay, all right. But you notice something. And it's not the worst thing in the world when he's describing her significance in becoming or attaining this position. He mentioned her age, effectively, the youngest, whatever that means, but nothing else. And everything that he put up before that was her own personal accomplishments leading up to that position. And he didn't mention any aesthetics. You know how rare it is. You know how my little evolved lizard brain instincts, as I was listening to him speak, I was waiting for those other adjectives to be added to his description of her in attaining that position, but they didn't happen. And that's significant to my brain and to my reflexes. And how sad a fact that is to me. I'm happy with this so far. I would just love to know, what equipment? Like, what equipment? Just something. Like, did you provide them a oscilloscope or some kind microscopes or something? Like, what did you provide? Something more tangible.
She's really a walking embodiment of what it is that you're doing. We spoke with her earlier. She said, "Oh, you're talking to Dr. Wilson?"
Right.
She said, "I'm a recipient. Look at this." She's like, "Without them, I may not be here."
Yeah,
so that's incredible.
Great testament to the work.
All right. Now, you also serve as the Director of Workforce Development Diversity Outreach.
Okay, here we go.
For Shell. Do you see any area where more work can be done as far as diversity efforts go? And do you see some opportunities where we've really made some great progress?
One of the things we realize is when you look in the classroom, there's not a lot of representation in the classroom.
Oh, no. We were doing so well. So well. We were talking about students in general, schools in general, teachers on the basis of their merits, representation in the classroom. Okay. How would you solve for this problem?
When you look at the demographics of the country, we're becoming more diverse.
And?
But the classroom hasn't become more diverse. So we're focused on efforts to increase the diversity in the classroom.
How? Like, what? Again, I know I'm a broken record. I know. How?
And support students having role models in that area to encourage them to become future teachers.
Here we go again. If you can't see it, you can't be it. And again, I didn't watch these things ahead of time, so I didn't know what the through line was going to be one to the next. But this is, and again, all these videos have been posted within the last week or so. This is all today's stuff. This isn't from several years ago. This isn't out of context from a decade back or something. And again, these are national organizations. These are schools and things across the country, different areas, and yet we're hearing the same things.
It's a benefit to not only energy companies, but many companies in that local community because it creates economics, which improves school systems.
How does that improve economics for school systems? Like what is the association between the appearance of teachers and a student's assessment of their own value on the basis of the teacher's appearance and economy?
Right.
Through having an employee base. So
right. I'm sure you're looking at these students that you're pouring so much of your time and energy and, contributions into thinking, future employees.
What else do you think that they're doing, lady? Come on. And I know this is a softball interview stuff and everything else, but she at least touched upon the pragmatic reality of what they're doing. Yes, if they put their branding on everything, if they say, hey, look what Shell has done for your school. Well, this is the kind of stuff we do at Shell. Maybe you'd be interested in doing this kind of stuff for Shell. Yeah, yes. It is a stealth recruitment program. That may have fringe benefits outside of the company in that you may inspire a student to do something in engineering or science or otherwise, and they take it somewhere else. But yes, they are increasing the possibilities that they're going to have good advertising and good brand identification with the younger generation going forward for future employment. Yes.
definitely looking at future employees, future customers as well.
Yes, absolutely. But
yeah, I mean, it's all good. It's all just one big PR write-off. It's all marketing. I mean, thankfully, whatever the other ulterior motives are, you're encouraging students to get interested in science. That's a good thing all around. Doesn't matter what brand you put on it. Doesn't matter if you're trying to encourage them towards being a Shell customer or being a Shell employee. If you're educating students and helping school districts that don't have the funds for this kind of equipment and this kind of research and this kind of education, it is all around a good thing, whatever else your corporate motives might be. Okay, so let's go back to how you intend to improve the diversity of the teachers.
both sides of the coin. Well, we certainly appreciate everything that Shell USA is doing for NSTA, and we appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, that was 75% yay, 25% all right, what's next? No, I don't want to listen to the in-between. I want to hear the interviews with the people involved. Okay, who's next?
Tackling teacher burnout requires intentional reflection and actionable solutions.
Oh, critical reflection, self-reflection and teaching. I've done videos on this before, yes.
So how do we help our educators and elevate them to the next level? Here to hopefully answer that exact question is Georgia's Teacher of the Year, Sherry Goldman. Thanks for your time this morning.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, what are you seeing here from your fellow educators? How worn out are we?
Educators are worn out.
Yeah. Most, I don't know that I've ever not heard about educator burnout in the entire time that I've been alive and aware of such things. So yeah. And admittedly, with the pandemic and everything else, I'm sure that is a special set of circumstances that goes above and beyond your normal everyday, but okay.
They have had a lot on their plate for the last few years.
Yes.
There's obviously the issues related to COVID.
Yes.
But there also have been institutional and organizational issues that have been brewing. And I think COVID just kind of magnified a lot of those issues.
Such as?
So now that COVID is stepping back, we hope, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Those institutional and organizational issues remain, and we really need to find ways to support teachers so that they're not burnt out.
Such as?
So it sounds like you're saying some of the problems that arose during the pandemic are not necessarily going away with the pandemic.
That's exactly what she just said. That is just a very, very loose rephrasing of exactly the words that just came out of her mouth.
No, they're not. There's some issues that were specific to the pandemic.
Like?
So you had stress that was caused by virtual learning or masks or contact tracing, things like that. And so with COVID going away, some of those issues go away, but some of the other organizational issues still remain.
Like?
So who do our teachers need help from? Are we talking?
No. The follow-up to that is, what are some of those organizational or institutional issues? That's the follow-up to that. She just gave the COVID-specific ones that have faded away or not become as relevant. Now you go back to, okay, so what are those issues?
From their local districts, from the state level, the federal level?
It's all levels, really, because those different levels impact teachers in different ways. So there are solutions that need to be offered on the federal level, on the state level, on the district level. And
solutions to what?
And then even within the school building.
So what is the NSTA doing, and what more can be done?
So
no. What can be done about what? What are the issues? You said that there were issues that existed before the pandemic, were exacerbated by the pandemic, and remain after the pandemic. Such as what?
So I'm incredibly grateful to the NSTA because they gave me the opportunity to come here and speak to their teachers about the issue of burnout and to explain to them what we've done in the state of Georgia in order to identify what some of the issues that are causing burnout.
Could you give us an example?
And some of the actionable solutions that we are working toward to help alleviate some of that burnout.
Okay, and like what? I mean, I can't say whether or not I'm irritated at the interviewer or the speaker on this, because you can see that there are jump cuts involved in this entire presentation. So maybe there were some specifics offered that we're just not being allowed to hear, and that's really frustrating. So when you hear me like going off like this, I'm both irritated that our interviewer is not asking the question, our speaker is not offering up the information, or whoever edited this decided to just take that stuff out. I'm not quite sure who to be more annoyed by here, but it's got to be a combination.
And do you feel like maybe some of those solutions are starting to have an impact? Are you seeing a little bit of change?
Yes, I mean, I do. There is most definitely still burnout. I don't want to say that it's gone away.
They will never go away. There's no absence of burnout in any long-term career, and especially one working with people. Unless you just have the psychic fortitude of a ball of granite or something. You're going to have burnout eventually. You're going to need a break. So yeah, burnout's never going away for anything. But could you at least give us one example of something you are doing to alleviate teacher burnout over a specific issue or complication in the institution or the system?
Right. However, the opportunity that was given to teachers in Georgia by the Georgia Department of Education and the creation of a teacher burnout task force, which then produced a report of observations and recommendations, that has really elevated the teacher voice on that issue. And has gotten a lot of people on the state and the local levels to pay attention and come up with solutions on those levels.
Final question for you. What's your one piece of advice for that educator who thinks, you know what, this is my last year, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm worn out, I'm about to throw in the towel. What's your advice to try to get them to hold on?
Remember your why, but at the same time,
remember, remember why you're doing this in the first place.
I don't want to tell teachers to sacrifice themselves for their why, because I think a lot of teachers are have a hard time with that work-life balance, and it's very off balance for a lot of people right now, and that's what's really tipping the scales. So you do have to remember your why, but you also have to take care of yourself. I think the other piece of advice that I would give to teachers is make sure that you are not dealing with this alone. Make sure you're talking with a mentor.
You're not alone.
Make sure you're talking with a leader in your building, if that's something that you're comfortable with a coworker, so that maybe some of the things that you're struggling with, you can collaborate with other teachers, with other mentors on to help you manage some of the issues that you're struggling with.
man, I gotta make a more concerted effort to try to find interviews on these subjects that are not edited, that are somewhat serious or engaging, and not just puff pieces. And certainly don't jump around making me feel like we're missing out on some interesting information. This is very frustrating. You're not telling us. And I should say the National Science Teachers Association is not telling us anything, because whoever's in charge of putting this together this is the messaging that they want. This is what they want us to hear about this stuff.
Really great advice. Sherry, thank you so much for your
Absolutely.
time today.
Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, okay. Is there another interview in here, or do we have more? Yeah, another intermediate thing. Okay, one more. I'm already about at the edge of the stream, but I'll give this interview a minute or two here to see what they have to say. And then I'm going to wrap it up, because there's so much implied or directly stated that is worrying to me, but at the same time, it's also frustrating not to get many details from the people involved in these organizations.
The world is full of complex problems to solve, and today's youth will be the problem solvers of tomorrow.
I have diminishing hope over the years that today's youth are going to be able to solve anything, because they're not being given a good foundation or a healthy outlook on themselves or the world. But, that's just me being a pessimist, I suppose, or a bit of a cynic.
Dr. Leanne DeLizer joins us now in studio with more on how we can create classrooms that incubate creative problem solvers. Thanks for your time this morning.
Yes, how do we incubate creative problem solvers? I love solving problems creatively. It's actually one of the things I actually love to do the most, brainstorming, being presented with something, trying to find a way around it. I have a very difficult time self-starting in coming up with ideas for things or working on things. But if somebody puts a problem in front of me, I have an anecdote about that. I will talk about that over on the Discord after the show, at least briefly, rather than take up time here.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, you've got to start off by telling me who you brought along with you. Who's our friend?
So I brought Allie. Allie is our mascot at CS for All, and they are, you'd see them in a lot of our social media.
They are?
But they travel with me and help tell the story of computing education.
Wonderful. Okay, let's talk about problem solving. What is it that you think makes a strong problem solver?
The best problem solvers are the ones who can pull ideas from multiple places.
Yes.
There's all this buzz around here about ChatGPT and AI and how AI is going to take everyone's job.
It's going to take a lot of jobs. There's a lot of people right now leaning into AI to do their job for them. I'm looking at you, video game editors and authors.
But what AI does is it actually looks at patterns in history and tries to redo that. The way that ChatGPT works is it looks at a sentence and says, how would that sentence be finished by some human?
Yeah.
And what a problem solver does is they take all of their experiences in their lives and they combine them in new and interesting ways.
Conceivably, I guess. Real quick here. Come on, chat. Catch up with yourself. There's this delay between YouTube chat and StreamYard chat. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. Scribe in an escape room. Make it so. Oh, man. I've never done an escape room. But I'd like to try one sometime.
So for us, we really want computer science and science to be a part of those problem solvers toolboxes in the next generation.
They already are. The next generation? What? Computers and computer science has been around for a little while now. There's been a few generations into computers and computer science.
Okay, that's great. Leads me right into my next question. You talk about the problem solver toolbox. Are there any key attributes that you think a great problem solver has in their toolbox?
There's this expression that if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah. Well, if you have that mentality, yeah.
Oh, I like that.
You've never heard that before? Okay.
And so one of the best things about good problem solvers is they don't always use every tool in their toolbox. And so even though computer science and technologies like AI or cybersecurity or robots might be a part of a problem solver's toolbox, there's also the critical thinking of, should I use that technology?
You've spent your entire career building the
Okay, we're jumping around so much in this interview with the edits. I don't even know what's going on anymore.
computer science field. When it comes to educators, what have you found some of the challenges to be that educators face or that they have when it comes to, I guess, improving their competency in the computer science field?
Well, first, I want to say that right now there's this narrative that schools are broken, teachers are tired.
Our last speaker just told us that schools have been broken and teachers are tired because there's these institutional issues that remain both before, during, and after the pandemic, and there's burnout everywhere. I mean, unless you do not believe anything the previous speaker said, then this narrative isn't just a narrative. It might actually be a reflection of some measure of reality.
Right. And normally the person who says that then follows it with this amazing panel of educators and school leaders doing innovative things, right?
That are neither broken nor tired.
Neither broken nor tired. So first, I think the biggest challenge for educators right now is this narrative that they should be tired, that they should view their system as broken. I want to celebrate all the assets that educators bring.
Okay, I guess not encouraging teachers to be pessimistic about things would be a good thing. But at the same time, you've got an entire organization, as embodied by our previous speaker, who was talking about there being this problem that is so widespread, they need to have all these initiatives and all these solutions and everything else. So, you know, the power of positive thinking is one thing, but if it's actually happening, then I'm confused.
And then when thinking about upskilling ourselves for the future of this world that includes technology, how do we empower them to build on their assets? I think we fall too much on the deficit narrative, and it makes educators feel like they're starting from scratch when they really have so much to bring and so much to give.
They've already got the platform. They just need to add this one little thing to it.
Yeah.
Okay, I know there's a couple minutes left in this, or maybe there's not. I don't even know. Are we almost done? Yeah, there was only like 30 seconds left and was all going to be glad handing. Okay, well, it was a bit of a cornucopia in the last video of subject matter, I guess. Some things were more encouraging than others. Some things were conflicting. What did I learn from this? Nothing. Oh, man, I wanted to hear what were their theories on solutions, right? It's always the case that they intimate problems or broadly describe problems, and almost never do they give any specificity. Like, what exactly is it that you're attempting to resolve? If you say it's a problem, that there aren't enough of this kind of teacher, well, then tell us, how would you solve for that problem? What is your philosophy? What is your plan? What does your program do? But more importantly, why is that a problem? Right? You have to describe the problem and explain why it's a problem before you start talking about solutions. But in either case, you have to give details enough on both that you can see how one applies to the other. And we watched, admittedly, the first video was just the most 2.5 minute little blurb more than anything else. But in the interview for PBS, and now in these various obviously heavily edited interviews for the NSTA, nothing. What? And I always have to wonder, what exactly are they intending to get across to an audience with these pieces? I mean, someone is editing these final pieces and putting them out. If you interview someone and you ask them specific questions and they don't give specific answers, okay, that is information in and of itself that the viewer can assess, right? If someone's not forthcoming, if they're talking in broad terms, if they're trying to avoid the question and so on, it's not satisfying information, but the response in and of itself might tell you something, or at least give you reason to ask more questions. But if you're not saying anything at all, and if you're not even pressing anybody for any specific answers or for information, then what exactly is the point of these interviews? if not just PR. I assume in the second instance here, or sorry, the third instance of the videos, the NSTA is just basically pushing their existence and their relevance. So obviously they have a bias. Obviously they're going to try to push the most sunny disposition to everything as possible. Okay, I guess I have to accept that. But all the same, if you're trying to get ideas out there to people, if you're trying to convince them of something, why is this the end result? Why is this acceptable? Especially in something that is supposed to be a science organization where you're seeking answers. You're trying to seek the truth of the world in some way, shape, or form, demonstrable, observable truth. Even in interviews with the people supposedly in charge of pushing that theory, you're not pushing for those answers, or you're accepting half-baked answers. I don't know. But this is what we got. This is a random sampling of videos on the subject of diversity, equity, and inclusion in classrooms and in educational fields, and this is what we have. I'll take a minute here for you guys, your guys' comments, and then I will wrap things up. Let's see. Oh, Mike Savage maybe have a good story. My faith in humanity was raised this afternoon. I met a young fellow who turned out to be pretty conservative, quote unquote. Okay. I'll assume that's a good thing. Except, you know, buzzwords like conservative don't mean a heck of a lot to me anymore. It's like, what is that supposed to mean now? Like, everything's so amorphous, as though you could put everybody into one category. Super Koopa TV, some of the younger generation isn't buying what woketivists are selling them. That's somewhat encouraging, but I don't know what the ratio is. I don't know. It's not so much... This is why I concern myself with the people in charge of stuff, the educators, the experts, the business leaders, and so on, because they're setting the tone, right? They're, especially the educators who time and time again, never talk about parents, never talk about what's best for the student, are always seemingly pushing socio-political ideologies forward first, and not talking so much about educational value, putting aesthetics ahead of merit, and on and on and on. Even if you're only mildly entertaining these things as someone in charge of helping kids become educated adults, it's very worrying, right? Because death by 1,000 cuts. If you have teachers who gradually sort of accept, well, we have to do some kind of diversity program in the classroom, and so da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, it's worrying to me about mostly the education. I have a whole playlist on my channel called Curriculum of Fear. I named my Substack after that because life is becoming an education of fear these last several years, because it concerns me so much. I don't have a stake in the game particularly. I'm not a parent. I don't have any kids in school, but I have friends who have kids. I was a kid once. I've seen just the drastic change in how I was raised, both as a child in the world and in the public education system. And now I look at what's taking place in the public education system, and it horrifies me to think what I would have turned out to be if I had been brought up in some of these philosophies and agendas in public school. Not some private school that has its own little particular thing that parents are willing to pay top dollar for, but in public education. It's very disturbing to me. And again, I'm just a layman, and I got no stake in the game beyond that. Let's see. Anything else? Mike Savage again. Anton Petrov has a video where he says that science is getting stale, just reinforcing existing concepts and ideas with decreasing innovation. Yeah, there's a theory to this that I heard recently that applies to a fictional universe. It's the Warhammer 40K universe. I'm not going to go into it too deeply. Other people have done well. But if you want to see an inkling, at least a theoretical inkling of what Mike Savage is referring to there, go onto YouTube and look up Warhammer 40K. I believe it's called The Death of Knowledge. The Death of Knowledge. And even though it's talking about a fictional universe, in the course of describing this sort of theme in that fictional universe, there are many truths about the dangers of our own hubris, and our own sort of laziness, let's say, as a culture, as a society, as a species, that are real dangers. And it's a very interesting sort of look at that concept through the lens of a fictional universe. I'd highly recommend it, because even if you don't know anything about Warhammer, the sentiments and the concerns expressed about the concept of the death of knowledge in that video and other videos like it, very interesting stuff. Worrying, but also very interesting and very applicable to our current day, I think. Let's see. With that, everybody, I'm going to call it here. I'm already a bit of overtime as I had planned. So with that, first and foremost, if you'd like to continue the conversation in some way, shape, or form over on my Discord, because I have a Discord now, I'm about to put a link into the chat that is good for 1 day. And if you have this link and you click on this link, you'll end up on a landing channel. And at that landing channel, you have to give us the secret word for the day. Because if you don't have the secret word, we won't know that you watched the show to its completion. So if we don't recognize your username offhand, the secret word for today is science. Yes, science. So if you're not already a member of the Discord, go over there. If you say science, me and the other moderators will know that you're a true fan of the show and the channel, and we'll let you into the other channels on the Discord so you can talk about all types of stuff, or just kind of hang out and talk about your car or your computer that you're upgrading or your mortgage, as has been the case this morning. Also, in a few minutes over there, I'm going to relay that anecdote I mentioned earlier about how my mind doesn't work until somebody gives it a kickstart. It's actually something that happened on the Discord a few weeks ago. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Anyway, beyond that, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to hear more from me, you can find me here Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, where I often take a look at off-brand TED Talks for education and enlightenment. I call it Enlightened Education. Holy cats, Miranda Stone, thank you so much for your generosity as always. She says, thanks for the stream. Well, you're welcome, Miranda. And thank you, Miranda. Everybody say thank you to Miranda for not only making sure to give me the links to the fundraisers that are pinned to the top of the chat box, but also for being one of the moderators on the Discord. I don't know what to say. I appreciate beyond words her help in helping me set up the Discord, keeping an eye on it. Even though you guys are so well behaved, there's very little for us to do, which I thank you for. So thank you, Miranda. And as well, on this stream, as is always the case, moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. We have very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to the GoFundMe's, the fundraisers, it's not just GoFundMe's, fundraisers pinned to the top of the chat box. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your generosity. I never have the words to express how much I appreciate it. And I know that the Moonshock and Angry Illinois also appreciate your help on that as well. With that, everybody, all of that, hope you have a good rest of your Sunday, a good rest of your weekend. I hope you have a good week ahead of you. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.